Hey everybody, happy Saturday. Welcome. Now that I'm 60 years old, I'm reflecting on my life. I'm just kidding. I always do that. Let's see here. There's a sale still going on my website that you can find there. I want to do a couple housekeeping things here. Remind people that to subscribe to my channel. Getting close to 3 million. I still have 80,000 to go. That's, could be done in a couple months or so. The percentage of people that are unsubscribed has moved from 58 down to 57%. So there's still, I figured this out the other day with Aaron, 4 million people that are unsubscribed that regularly watch my channel, which is kind of crazy, right? Think about it. Nearly 3 million people that do. I want to tell this story about, I thought a lot about this. You guys see my bass here. It's kind of a crappy bass. That's why I don't play it very much in my videos. It's not an expensive bass. It's a plywood bass. But I started playing the bass in sixth grade. But I want to go back a little bit. I want to talk about why I became a musician, because these are conversations I'm having with my kids. And this is something that I kind of forget about. That I've talked about my origin story about breaking my ankle and stuff and starting the guitar. But really, there was a couple things that happened. I was always exposed to music. I made my videos talking about my Aunt Penny and my grandfather and being a guitarist, and my Aunt Marion that was played the violin and taught school band, and really up until a couple years ago, and school orchestra. But I'm from a family of 7. None of us were really musicians at the time. We all loved music, but everybody loved music, and it was very common to take instruments at the time. So in second grade or third grade in my school district, Fairport, New York, we took the Seashore test, which is a music aptitude test, which has 6 different sections in it. And it talks about pitch, rhythm, timbre. I forget all the different sections, but you can actually look it up on YouTube. There's one video that I found, and it's a series of it's an LP that they would put on, and they would play the test, and you'd listen. There's my cousin Janine. Hey, Janine. So it was a musical aptitude test, and they would take the people that scored the highest, and they would become string players in third grade. And then people that were the next group of people became wind players in the fourth grade. And the reason was that the wind instruments were more difficult to play, especially some of the larger ones, right? So I decided to take the cello. I went in with my mom to this place, Johanna Perrin Elementary School, and they had a night where they gathered together the people. There was probably 30 of us or so that gathered together, and they did a demonstration of the instruments. And they didn't have a bass. They had the violin, viola, and cello. And they had the orchestra director, Ken Brown, who did the junior high and high school, and then Eleanor, oh boy, I'll think of Eleanor's name. She was the cello teacher. And there's a guy named David Thurkins that was the viola teacher. So all 3 of them played the instruments and talked about them, how they differ from one another. You could obviously see the size difference. I heard the cello, and Eleanor, the cellist, played the first Bach cello suites. I played that, and I heard that, and I thought it was amazing. It was beautiful. I didn't know what the piece was. I thought, wow, this is incredible. I want to play that. So I get my cello, and the cellos had a bag that was like a canvas bag, and you'd have to carry it on the bus with you. And it was a real drag, and nobody wants to bring their cello on the bus. And I never really practiced or anything. So I played cello in the orchestra. And the great thing about our school system is that it was well funded for music for some reason. I don't know why, but just a lot of the teachers from the Eastman School of Music lived in my town. And the high school principal was a former band director. Maybe that had something to do with it, but they just love music in upstate New York. A lot of the music programs are well funded. So I'm taking the cello. I'm not that into it, but I'm getting private lessons every week, and I'm never practicing. And I remember one day in third grade, our third grade music teacher, Miss Malm, brought in this musician to talk to the kids. He was a trumpet player, flugelhorn player named Chuck Mangione. This is 1973. And Chuck came in and did a demonstration for our class. And we had this music in the round. We had this room in the round that was carpeted with these 3 steps. And Chuck came in and played, and I thought, wow, that's really cool and everything. But that wasn't the turning point or anything. I thought it was cool that we had these great players that would come in and play for us and everything. But come to 6th grade or so, and Ken Brown, the orchestra director, comes to me and he says, what do you think about changing to the bass? We're going to add 2 bass players next year. And I said, okay. And he says, do you know what the bass is? I said, yeah. And my Uncle Al played the bass. And I knew what the bass was. I listened to jazz records that my dad would play. So he said, I'm going to get you a bass to take home with you for the summer. And he drove it over to my house and dropped it off. I brought it inside, and he said, I want you to play in this chamber orchestra this summer. I said, okay, what are we going to play? We're going to work on a piece. You're going to take lessons from me for 2 weeks every day, and then we're going to do this chamber orchestra thing. And the chamber orchestra piece is going to be this Bach piece, Brandenburg Concerto No. 3. So I get the music to the bass part. I'm going to play you. This is the Brandenburg Concerto No. 3 in G major for those of you that don't know it, but I'll play it. It goes like this. That's not it. That's the intro, but here it is. This is the Bach Society of the Netherlands. There are 3 first violins, 3 second violins, 3 violas, 3 cellos, 1 harpsichordist, and 1 bass player. And we had a parent that played harpsichord. So I didn't know how this piece went. I just had the bass part. Right? So Mr. Brown says, go to the public library and get out the Brandenburg concertos so you can actually hear what they sound like before you come in to play it. So I go to the Fairport Public Library, and every public library has the Brandenburg concertos. They're the most common pieces that you'll hear of some of the most common known pieces in classical music. So I go to the public library. There they are, Bach Brandenburg concertos. And I bring them home and I play the 3rd Brandenburg concerto. And I heard that and I thought, this is amazing. Wow. So I start playing along with the music. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. And I played the cello already, so playing the bass was easier. Now the bass is tuned in 4ths, the cello's tuned in 5ths. And I didn't play the guitar yet. Okay, so I start playing along with this, and I thought, wow, this is incredible. So then I start listening to the 1st Brandenburg Concerto in F, and the 2nd Brandenburg Concerto, and the 4th, and the 5th, and the 6th. And these are some of the most beautiful pieces that I had ever heard, and I became obsessed with this. So I'm listening to this for a couple of weeks, playing along with the record. Then we come to our first rehearsal, and we did 2 weeks of rehearsal every day with the chamber orchestra. And I had a bass that was there. I didn't have to bring my bass. We didn't have a car that could move a bass. So I had a bass at home and a bass at school. So I go in, and I'm the only bass player. So we start playing this thing, and I was blown away. Nothing ever connected an orchestra to me. It was really not that interesting up until then. But this piece just blew my mind. And playing in a chamber orchestra like this was incredible. And that experience over those 2 weeks, we then went and we did a performance of it. And it was great. My parents came to it and they loved it. They said, wow, this is great. Love that you're playing the bass. My mom, especially, because her brother, my Uncle Al, had been a bass player. So, and if you don't know the Brandenburg Concertos, they're absolutely outstanding. Well, that wasn't the end of it, because a lot of my videos that I've made recently, I talk about the John Dowland video that I did where I discussed the Earl of Essex Galliard by John Dowland. And that was also at the public library, good old Fairport Public Library. Dances of Dowland, Julian Bream. I got that record out and I listened to it. And I got records, all different eras of classical music. Beethoven, Mozart, Bach, Brahms, Haydn, Schubert, Schumann, Mendelssohn, Chopin, Strauss. And then I started listening to some modern classical music. And then by this time, I'm playing bass in the orchestra in junior high. And I'm playing sports. But then in 8th grade, that's when I broke my ankle. And I picked up the guitar. And that really is where my obsession of becoming a musician started, was when I became a guitarist. My love for classical music started with the bass. Now, I have an undergraduate degree in classical bass. That's what I majored in college for my undergrad. So this turning point, so you figure I was 13 in 7th grade when I started taking music seriously. But my obsession with music started just after I turned 14 in 1976. That's what it was. It was the bass, then the transition to the guitar, where once I picked up the guitar, being able to play songs that you heard on the radio all the time, that was everything, And I started practicing the guitar constantly, hours and hours a day. I was a terrible student in junior high and high school. I barely graduated high school. As soon as I could exempt out of any class, I took 1 year of mathematics. I took algebra, and I barely passed it. I didn't take any other math classes after. People say, musicians are good in math. Not this musician, terrible in math. And so I would gradually take less and less classes. And I was telling my son Dylan, we was talking about study hall for next year for high school. And I said, I used to bring my guitar to school and practice during study hall. He said, what? I said, yeah. I go down to the music wing, and all the musicians, we all had lockers. We had 2 lockers, a regular locker, and then we had our band locker. So I had my bass I had a huge bass locker. So we'd put our bass in the locker and leave it there. And I would bring my guitar to school every day. So every study hall, I'd have a couple study halls a day. I'd go down to the band wing at Fairport High School. And I would get my guitar out, and I would go in a practice room, and I would practice guitar for 45 minutes or whatever, whatever. And I would bring a cassette player with me. I was listening to records. I was figuring out solos. I was playing in a band. This is where I just did a video on Larry Carlton on Kid Charlemagne. When did you learn that? I learned it when it came out, 1976. I learned all these different solos that I've played on my channel. I have a lot of, if you look at my second biggest video on my channel, the top 20 guitar solos of all time, a lot of the solos that I learned in high school. The people that I've had on my channel, like Peter Frampton, that I was obsessed with, or Brian May, I learned all their guitar solos. I learned Eddie Van Halen guitar solos when Eddie came out with the first record. And The ear part of this was different. The musical aptitude was something that wasn't just common in my family. I mean, my mom's side of the family, my dad's side of the family, my mom's side of the family especially, everybody had great ears. My Aunt Penny, my Aunt Marion, my Uncle Al, my grandfather, they were all musicians. They all had phenomenally great ears. They could figure out anything. Even my mom, who didn't play an instrument, but my mom could sit down at the piano, and if she heard her tune and when she wanted to figure out what the chords were or something and play along with it, no problem, she could do that. She thought when I used to tell her that people couldn't do that, that was astounding to her. What do you mean? People? How can people not be able to figure out things? This was just common to her, right? Now, the guitar thing, though, this is what's so interesting, and this is what I try to explain to my kids, that I still feel at 60 the same way that I did when I was 14. I love to play the guitar as much as I did when I was 14 and just learning basic chords. I don't know why. I have the same excitement for it. I want to learn new things. I'm always practicing. Those of you that follow me on Instagram, you know I'm always putting out new stuff, teaching things on Instagram. I do it on here on Shorts. I'm always working on new things. And my entire YouTube channel is really about my obsession with music, my fascination with learning new things, with learning new genres of music. I'm always listening to new music, contemporary music. I just had Animals as Leaders on with an interview, for those of you that haven't seen that, where they were in town touring. When groups tour through town, I've had Eric Johnson in here. I've had many contemporary groups and established artists. I was lucky enough to interview people like Pat Metheny and Sting, people that were inspiring to me when I was in college and and later on in life. And being able to communicate it through here, having the vehicle of YouTube, is something that I never would have foreseen. Dylan came down and was asking me about an elective. He was thinking about taking photography as an elective. I was talking to him about this last night for next year, and I said, because he's going to be in high school, and I said, are you doing photography or is it video? He says, I don't know. And I thought, well, I didn't own a camera until I started this YouTube channel. And you guys know Rhett. Rhett came. I had a little birthday gathering the other day here, and Rhett and his wife Tilly came, and Rhett's parents, Glenn and Wanda, that I'm good friends with, came, and a bunch of my friends were sitting around, and we were joking about this. Rhett was telling two of my buddies that he didn't know, two of my really old friends, about how anytime something would change with my camera early on in the channel, I would always call Rhett. I'd be like, dude, my video's all dark. I don't know what's going on. My camera just went dark. He said, what did you do? I don't know. It's dark. It doesn't look the same. And Rhett's like, oh, all right, FaceTime me. So I FaceTime him. I'm walking around the camera showing it. He said, you hit the f-stop button and you made it to whatever it was. I don't know which way it went and everything. So turn that back to 1/60. I was like, okay, fine. So I shoot 30 frames typically. I shoot 24, 30, depends. Or I hit the ISO button, or I hit this. Usually it's when I'm reaching for the SD card, right? People are saying Grandpa Rick in there. I know, it's pretty funny. But I never owned a camera. So this is the this is the thing that this is another skill that I've learned since I started my YouTube 8 years ago, right? So this is these are valuable skills. I never thought, oh, I'm going to make a living. I'm going to work for 6 years, and My job is going to be a video creator and editor, sound. What is it? My buddy Marcus does a lot of film. Does a lot of film audio for film. Thank you, Janine. Appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you. That's my first cousin, Janine, right there. We are the same. We're almost the same age. So my friend Marcus, though, works on a lot of movies, and he always talks about the jobs that you have as a YouTuber. He goes, well, you're the talent or whatever. You're the art actor or whatever it is, whatever we are here. You're the set designer. You're the editor. You're the sound person. You're the gaffer. I don't even know what that is. You're the lighting director. You're the creative director. You're the, and he listed about 30 jobs that are on movie sets. And this is what YouTubers do. You have to do all this stuff. But the first thing to master or to figure out was to figure out actually how to use a video camera. And so I said to Dylan, I was like, I would take photography if I could again. This is the one thing that was a real, I thought, weakness of my early content on here was the video quality. When I go back and look at it, because I really didn't understand I could figure out the editing part because it's very similar to editing Pro Tools, but I did not understand cameras. So I think this was a good skill. I told Dylan that's a good skill to have. Who knows if you'll ever use it, but knowing how to use a camera. And nowadays cameras are so sophisticated. If you have the right lighting, it's pretty hard to get a bad shot. You'll notice that obviously my YouTube videos have improved. A gaffer is chief electrician. Thank you, 6th user. I appreciate that. See, I didn't even know what that is. Okay, now everybody talks about what a gaffer is. Electrician who wires up the stage, hence the stage tape. Gaff tape. Well, there you go. Gaffer's tape. I use gaff tape all the time. Matter of fact, here's my gaff tape right here. I got to get a new roll. Gaff tape's really expensive. It's like $30 for a roll of this. So I think that, so two skills that I didn't have when I started this, I didn't take typing, not realizing that I'm going to be typing, not just with this stuff, but as a music producer, all you do is work at a keyboard, right? So it's not just this kind of keyboard. It's the QWERTY keyboard. And there's so many key commands that you have to know for Pro Tools, for Final Cut Pro. These things are all memorized, and it makes being able to edit videos and do your content quickly. It is invaluable. And I wish that I had that skill. I wish that I took a typing course. I mean, I guess I could take a typing thing using an app and stuff. So, but you never know what's going to catch your attention and catch your interest. Because if you would have said to me, it's just like with YouTube. When I was in, that one thing, hey, do you want to play the bass? And I thought to myself, because he said to me, Ken Brown said, you don't have to bring it on the bus. You'll have a bass at home and you'll have a bass at school. And the idea that I didn't have to bring my cello on the bus was really the biggest reason that I switched from the cello to the bass. I was, it was just always a hassle bringing your cello on the bus. In the age of computers, typing is a must. I see that. Janine, I don't know how you keep up with the tech, Rick. You're your mother's and father's son. They were always up to date. Janine is right. My dad got into computers in his late 70s. Okay. He completely embraced computers. and worked on them all the time. My dad passed away in 2004, really just before YouTube started happening. If he had seen YouTube, he would have freaked out. He loved CDs, DVDs, any type of digital technology he thought was superior because he collected 78s back in the 30s. And he was always dissatisfied with the sound quality of them. He liked LPs, but the convenience of digital to him was amazing, right? My mom got an Apple laptop in probably when Dylan was a baby, so that she could FaceTime with us. So 2007 or so, and my mom used that computer all the time. She used to call us at first. Hey, this happened, like me with Rhett. And then all of a sudden, after a couple of months, I never heard my mom never called me about that stuff and I'd be like, Mom, you using your computer? Oh yeah, I'll use it all the time. And then YouTube came out. My mom would send me videos. Hey, you should check out this guitar player. He's amazing, or she's amazing, or this is incredible version of this, whatever it is. Constantly sending me music YouTube links to check out. Always. What age did your father pass away? My dad was 85 when he passed away, and my mom was 90. My mom passed away in 2016. My mom passed away 3 weeks before I started my YouTube channel. And that was a really important thing. I was very tight with my parents. I was very tight with my mom. I talked to her every day, even though I lived down here in Atlanta and she was up in Rochester. And she had a stroke a year before she passed away on Mother's Day. I wasn't home. All my siblings were there sitting around the table, and they noticed that her face started to droop. And my brother-in-law, Bob, who's a retired doctor, said, Mom's having a stroke. And they called 911. My mom's like, no, I'm fine. Then she kind of came back, and then the ambulance got there, and she got into the ambulance. By the time she got to the hospital, she was paralyzed. Half of her right side, her left side was paralyzed. And I think it was her left side. And she ended up living in a nursing home for a year before she passed away. And that was a really incredibly difficult time that last year. And my YouTube channel was kind of a way to honor my parents and leave something for my kids, give back to, because I was so fortunate to have such a rich environment to grow up in with my Aunt Penny and my Aunt Marion and my Uncle Al and my mom and dad and my Grandpa Domino and, all these great musicians, and growing up in this school district that invested in students. And this is definitely something that they would have really approved of, is doing this. So that's why I do this. This is, Mother's Day's coming up. We're going to have a get together for my wife, and I'll be thinking of my mom on that day as well. And I'm incredibly lucky to come on here and talk to people, and I have some really interesting interviews coming up in the next couple weeks. I've got some big stuff, and I've had a couple artists that I really respect that have reached out to me about doing interviews, and I have another project that I've been working on. That's a very interesting. I think it's a really interesting project that is I don't know if you call it a passion project, but it's a much greater scale project that I think is really interesting. So I've been spending a lot of time planning this out. It's like a mini documentary thing that I'm thinking about. It's nothing that I've talked about in the past, but it's something I've been working on every day lately. And hopefully I'll be able to pull it off. But I'll tell you more about that as it comes up. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Like I said, we're trying to get to 3 million subscribers. I have 4 million people that watch my channel that are not subscribed. More people, 57% of the people that watch my channel are not subscribed to it. Okay, so that's about 4 million people, I think, right? If 3 million people are subscribed, roughly 3 million, maybe that's not right. I'm not very good in math. Don't hold me to it. Anyways, so there you go. I'll have another video out. I'm working on another video right now. It should be out on Monday. And if you haven't checked out my latest video on the 20 strangest guitar solos, please check them out. You guys are incredible. And have a great rest of your weekend. Thanks for stopping in today for my musings here. Appreciate the super chats. You guys are awesome. All right, we'll talk later. See you. The sale's still going on. You can find it at my website. See you. Bye.